Hey there, YouTube. Welcome to JT Picks, and today we're talking about Ye and Dollar Sign's Vultures 1. Let's just jump straight into it. I think it's a good project. There are some who immediately are saying that this is like Kanye's best project, and I have to disagree. It's not even top 5. So let's just give the score right offhand. It's a 7 out of 10. Simple. It's not a 7.5 because there are spots where it definitely does not near great, and there are spots where it does good and pretty close to great. But there's nothing like super special about this project, and I'll expand on that in a second. Just a quick segue. If you want to know my thoughts on some of the lyrical content of this album, I did a video on that, my problem with Ye's Vultures, so check that out if you haven't already. This review will just focus on whether it sounds good because there isn't really any story, any narrative structure to this album. As Ye said himself on Instagram, it's just supposed to be a positive and fun listening experience. And that it is. It is a fun listening experience. One of the things that I can really compare it to is Drake's Honestly Nevermind, in the sense that it's a dance album. A lot of the songs, not all of them, but a lot of them are trying to be like club bangers, and if they're not club bangers, they're just dance songs. They're EDM almost. You have songs like Paid, which takes a lot of inspiration from the Life of Pablo's Fade. Even they sound similar, Paid and Fade. You have Paperwork, which uses that kind of funk style, but in almost a very similar way to how EDM songs have a big drop. There's a lot of really just danceable songs here. Even if the songs aren't immediately danceable, they have something in them that's kind of fun and that you can dance to. Like Burn, for example, which even though that's more of a lyrical track, it's still something that when it plays, can't help but be like, her body like the Wild Wild West. Then you have like the club banger Do It. Obviously, it's bounce beat. It's not EDM directly in the sense that you think about it, but it is definitely, like I said, bounce. It's trying to get you to dance, which a lot of songs on this project do. It's cool that way. Even Carnival, all of those are real like bangers that you can just vibe with. I forgot to mention 2 songs on the album, Talking / Once Again, and I don't curse on this channel, so I'm just gonna call it Hit Some, and both kind of cover dancing aspect of the album, this Jersey club sound, specifically the talking part, and Hit Something is just really a banger. There's nothing really bad about either of those songs. Once again, has a really beautiful and underrated and overshadowed second half with Ty Dolla $ign and Kanye. Beautiful vocals from their parts. I'm not gonna say that North is absolutely spectacular. She just does a good job, you know, and that's all. And that's the thing I would describe this album with. It's just a vibe. It's a pleasant vibe to listen to, and it's something that's going to be on rotation for me for a while and for a lot of the world because it's just a fun album to listen to. That said, there are problems. Don't think this album's perfect. Yes, even though this album does contain, originally it contained 17 tracks, but The Good Don't Die, which was another EDM kind of song with lots of pulsing kicks, and the I Feel Good by Donna Summer sample was taken off. But now the album is 16 tracks, and even of those 16 tracks, there are about 3, maybe 4 tracks that don't resonate with me personally. The intro track, Stars, I really do like that Ty Dolla $ign, like I like that a lot. But other than that, I just feel like that track itself is kind of flat. The second track, Keys to My Life, I believe that's what it's called. It's good, but the thing is that it's reminiscent of Easy by Kanye and The Game. That kind of like beat going backwards thing was done.
Like you don't see me beating on your window, like Chief in the kitchen with the beaties and the endo. There it is, there it was, don't interrupt.
And I prefer it on Easy. And then probably the biggest disappointment for me, which I know has some people upset because there's like this love for this track, and I don't get why there is, but Beg Forgiveness. I know. There are people on Instagram and Reddit who are like,
oh, this track is so good, it's the underrated one.
When I was listening to it, I was like, when is this song over? The song just dragged on, especially, and I love Chris Brown's vocals, but I was like, Chris, you're taking too long here. I'm getting bored, which is something that pretty much for the rest of the album, even the tracks that I didn't like, I never felt bored. But with Beg Forgiveness, I felt bored. And especially like the second half, I thought I was going to switch it up and do something that didn't make me bored, but I was still bored, even in the second half. So I think that Beg Forgiveness is a real let me down track. And I would say that that track and one more are my least favorites of the album. Stars and Keys to My Life are not my least favorites, but they definitely aren't my favorites. But Beg Forgiveness and HOODRAT are my least favorite tracks. The instrumental for HOODRAT, I know some people love it, but for me, it's too much. As I said before with an Indie Tribe review, there are some instrumentals where it's just like too much. It's like, oh, you threw in that one thing and now it's too chaotic and I can't enjoy myself. That's the instrumental for HOODRAT. I was just like, out of the gate, it's not that they even threw something in there. Out of the gate, it was too much. It was too repetitive. It was too rambunctious. I didn't enjoy the instrumental at all. But the good thing is that HOODRAT was decently short. So it wasn't like crazy short, but it was short enough to the point that I was able to listen to it and be like, okay, let's move on with my day. Beg Forgiveness, on the other hand, is close to 6 minutes. And as I've said before with long songs, like if your song is long, I need a reason to stay the entirety of it. Something that's going to make the time go fast. And look, I like long songs. For example, my top 3 songs ever made are long songs. Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, 6 minutes. Stairway to Heaven, Led Zeppelin. I believe that's like 7-8 minutes. Runaway, Kanye West, 10 minutes. And each of those songs I love and I listen to over and over. So I don't have a problem with long songs. I have a problem with boring songs. And I'm sorry, but Beg Forgiveness was boring. HOODRAT was just noisy and rambunctious, but it's not long enough to say like, this is my absolute least favorite. If I had to go, 1, my least favorite, Beg Forgiveness. 2, HOODRAT. And finally, kind of the last critique of the album, and a lot of people are gonna just immediately maybe disagree with me here, but this is a collab album between Ye and Ty, and Ty kind of carried it. Yes, Ye did different things, but here's the thing. I prefer consistency, and Ty was extremely consistent on each track. He was just delivering every single time. For example, on Paid, I find myself loving Ty's part. I was just like, yeah. First on the hook, when he was on his verse, I really liked it. Kanye's verse, on the other hand, that's the lower point of the song. On Carnival, Ye didn't do bad. He did pretty decent. I think his part is pretty, like, memorable and you want to rap along with it. But Ty, once again, just, like, solid. Every time he was on a song, every verse of his, solid. I didn't find myself going, no, Ty didn't do that great here. No, pretty much everything that Ty did was good. Ty was definitely more consistent, and I think Ty did better than Ye. That's not saying that Ye did horrible, but there definitely were many low points for Ye. Okay, now on to the positives, which is a lot. First, let's just talk about the rap song. Problematic and Burn. Those are probably my 2 favorite rap songs. Back to Me is a separate thing, probably my favorite song on the album. But Problematic, man, those horns, I was like, because Ty does his thing in the hook and I believe in a verse, but then Ye started rapping and I was like, yeah, I'm feeling this. And then those horns came in and I started floating. So Problematic is, I would say, a perfect outro. King is a decent song, but I don't think it should have been the outro. Like, I get why it was, because Kanye's like, I'm still the king, I'm still on top, but Problematic was just so good with the vibes. You put Ye and then like triumphant horns and you get Dark Fantasy, which is a great song. Yes, I absolutely love that. And then Burn, really catchy hook from Ty Dolla $ign. When you take that and you mix it with Ye doing his signature style of rapping, you just get a happy feeling, because it's like, well, I haven't heard this Ye in a while. Okay, let's talk about my favorite song in the album, Back to Me. What's not to love? When this album was in the process of being rolled out, Back to Me was previewed and I listened to a lot of the leaks for Back to Me, and I immediately loved the hook for it. And I listened to it, especially with the Kanye screaming, "You hear that? You hear it?" and it imprinted itself onto my mind whenever I heard the hook. At the end, I was like, you hear that as an ad-lib? And then the first rave happened where he teased the full song, and we heard the Freddie Gibbs verse and the big, beautiful something, something woman. At first, I was a bit hesitant to like that. But then it got in my head, and I was like, okay, I listened to the leaks of it constantly. So when the album came out, I was really happy. And even though it's not as long as it was in the raves or the listening party, which honestly I prefer it to be that long because I feel like the hook is one of the best parts about it. And also, Ye's verse is overhated. It's not bad. It's actually really good. It's funny. I think this song is like the point of the album. It's just a fun song. And yeah, even though I don't personally agree with the lyrics or anything like that, I think it's just a fun song. It really shows itself like that, especially with the Ye's verse, because it's so playful and lighthearted. And you can't help but rap along with it, and you feel good when you do so. Another unpopular opinion, although Freddie Gibbs did really, really good on his verse, it's not the highlight of the song for me. It doesn't carry the song. If you had taken Freddie's verse out, I would miss it, but I wouldn't be like, this song is ruined. It's not, because Ye's verse, to me, is the highlight of the song, and Ty's hook is the second best part of the song, and then Freddie's part is last. Not because it's bad, but because the other parts are so good. As I've mentioned before, you have so many other great elements of this album. The dance songs like Paperwork, Do It, Paid. There are lots more of these good dance vibes almost on the album. I think once again that the low points of the album, they balance pretty nicely with the highs of the album, and that's where the 7 comes from. The score of the album would have been higher if we had less lows, but HOODRAT exists, Beg Forgiveness exists, Stars exist, Keys to My Life exists, King exists, and not all of those are like bad tracks per se, but there are tracks that I don't enjoy as much as I do some of the other songs. And even of the songs that I do enjoy, some of them aren't going to be played all of the time. Like Paid. I love parts of Paid, but I don't love Ye's part, which that turns me away from that song. I'd rather listen to Paperwork then, because Paperwork, I like Quavo's outro. I love his verse. I love the funk breakdown. I love Ty's part. Well, I love Ty's part with every song. There's all this stuff working for it. And then on top of all of that, you have the mid tracks. The tracks that aren't amazing or great, they might not even be good, but they're definitely not bad either. They're not near bad. They're in this like literal middle ground. Pretty much Vultures is the only one I can think of right now. I think that Vultures, the song, has benefited from being the lead single, because if I heard Vultures now, I'd be like, yeah, that isn't a very good song. But I've had so much time to digest it that now I'm like, I'm like, yeah, this is tough. I can't help but like be like, 3 gang members and we outside. I can't help it because I know it already, and it's had so much time to almost marinate in my mind. And like when it comes on, I can't help but just sing along with it. That is along the lines of a guilty pleasure for me. All of that describes the state of Vultures. It's an enjoyable project. It's a fun album. It's gonna stay in rotation for those reasons, but it's not Ye's best project. Ye has a lot of albums, and I don't think this is a bad album. I just don't think it's a great album. I think it's just a solidly good album. Ye is better than this album. I would even say, and this is going to be blasphemy for a lot of people, Jesus is King is better than this album. And that is only because that one feels just a little bit more cohesive. This one is a little bit all over the place. And I get that. That's because this one's trying to be like a fun pastime almost. Jesus is King wasn't trying to be a pastime. And you feel that, even though like it's a lot of hand-me-downs from Yandhi that are just Christianified, if I can say that. The fact that each track on it is Christian and obviously trying to infuse a gospel element with each song makes that album a cohesive project. This one isn't as cohesive. The only like cohesive element is that Ty is on every song. Other than that, it's like all over the place. I said earlier, this is like Honestly Nevermind by Drake because it's trying to be a dance album. But here's the thing. On that album, on Honestly Nevermind, we had all dance tracks, and then we had one song that was like almost trying to be I don't even know how to say it, Jersey Club. But it was trying to do that sticky with the dum 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 dum. And then at the end, we had a full-on hip-hop track with Jimmy Cooks. And for the most part, it was cohesive except for those 2 tracks. Here we have a few dance tracks, some hip-hop tracks, all over the place. And different types of hip-hop tracks and different types of dance tracks. It's a lot everywhere, and that leads it to be less cohesive and probably lower on the list of Kanye albums. There are points in time, by the way, so it doesn't seem like I'm being a hypocrite, where a lack of cohesiveness works on an album. And obviously, my favorite album is a prime example of that. The Life of Pablo, my favorite album from Kanye, by the way. It lacks cohesiveness because you can have a gospel track in the first track and then a dance track as the second to last track. But it still works because there's kind of this narrative that comes from the album title, The Life of Pablo, and it's 3 types of Pablos. So that works. Its lack of cohesiveness actually kind of makes it a narrative. And it low-key works. I know it sounds crazy, but it does. It makes sense. There is no story. What's the story? Vultures? Each track is a vulture? That doesn't make sense because there's nothing, no lyrics, no word from Kanye, nothing that backs that idea up. Especially even like the album cover. I was low-key disappointed with it. I get it. It's kind of tough with Kanye and his wife standing there. But first, I don't appreciate the fact that it's so explicit. And second of all, what does it have to do with any of the tracks? I get that this wasn't trying to be a narrative, but like, I feel the first album cover, the initial one, would have actually worked better. In fact, if you had just made one slight change and taken Bianca out of the picture and replaced her with Ty, this would be an 1,000,000 times better album cover because it makes sense. You know, it's Ye and $. This has no $sign in it. The only thing that would make sense to me is, as somebody said before on Reddit, they said that what should happen is that Vultures 2 will have Ty Dolla $ign on the cover and not Ye. The third one will have both of them. So the first one, just Ye. The second one, just Dolla. The third one, both. And that would make sense. I really hope that's the case. But I don't know. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share it, please, leave comments. And remember that there's only 2 things I know. I know that Jesus is king and that JT, moi, knows best. See you guys next time.